If you've been following my channel for a while, then you know I have my guilty pleasures just as everyone else does, just mine come in the form of these trashy blood and guts monster flicks that we find within anime as well as within Western films.
They're inside me in my head, eating my brain!
Slap the fuck out of it, can't you? I don't see no bugs!
They're eating my brain!
But of course, I'll also be the first person to say that these stories are really bad, and my personal enjoyment of them doesn't make them any better than what they actually are. The way I see it is, these movies have a charm of their own. The totally unbelievable stories, the over-the-top deaths, as well as the English voice acting that is comically bad.
Good evening, big-titted bitch.
Despite my favorable position towards these titles, it's not a blanket statement that encompasses the entire subgenre. It's just for a few titles, because there are some of them that are so bad that they're good, and then we have others that are simply so bad that you cannot bear another minute of them. Unfortunately, Violence Jack falls under this second category. Violence Jack is the 3-episode OVA adaptation from Go Nagai's manga of the same name. Its story is not really about anything, honestly. It's set in this dystopian future where everything is destroyed from earthquakes, and we have gangs that are just going around making life hell for everyone, pillaging and raping everybody. It's not a fun place to live. And then we have Violence Jack, who aimlessly walks around and kills a bunch of people, and that's basically what the story is. And it's sad to say that Jack himself, even though his name is on the cover, is not the main character of the story. He's more like a side character than anything else. Within this story, we're introduced to these helpless characters that you would expect them to be worthless side characters, but they actually have more detail than Jack himself. It's about their lives, it's about their individual problems, it's just that Jack is the one who always gets his hands dirty to fix everything, or just kill everybody. One of the major problems here that really hindered my enjoyment of this series is that they try and take itself too seriously. They give so much exposition, which really isn't even that much, but it's more than you need for a story that's this shallow, obviously. And then the action scenes, they are sparse, but when we have them, they're very intense. It's just that everything in between does a terrible job at holding your attention. I watched this with a few friends of mine. These are the same people that we all watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes together, and that held our attention, but something like this just didn't. What would have made Violence Jack much more enjoyable would have been if they didn't take the show so seriously, if they didn't try and sell you this story over and over again, because we'll have exposition, and then we'll have, you know, just talking about the characters' lives and telling you all about the problem, and none of it really matters because it's such a simple story to begin with. You just have innocent people, and you have bandits over there. The bandits are just cartoon villains, practically. All they want to do is steal, rape, and kill, and there's just no depth anywhere here. None of the characters have any personality worth mentioning. Violence Jack himself feels like a side character in his own show because at best you get a few choice words of dialogue from him, but aside from that, it's mostly just grunts. They do such a poor job at detailing any of these characters that they die, and you don't even care. It's like, they're innocent people, yeah, they're practically just extras in their own show, and then we have Jack who gets his eye put out, and he just pulls the knife out of his eye, and it just grows back magically a few minutes later, and it's just nothing that makes you care about any of these characters or the story itself. So you're just coming into Violence Jack like, okay, it's Violence Jack, I want to see some violence, I want to see some action, and they give you all this dialogue, and you don't care about any of it because there's no reason for it to be there. Now, whenever you do get to these action sequences, they are quite sparse when considering it's something called Violence Jack, but when we do get to them, they are very intense, and it's obvious that it's their effort with this film to create something that's edgy, and yes, I use a buzzword, I don't care, honestly. This is the definition of edgy here. They use blood, violence, gore, nudity, and sex to the extent that they are gratuitous. They don't need all of this, but they do it anyways. And it's so extreme and it's so controversial, honestly, that this was banned in certain countries. Now, there's this one scene that I just wanted to talk about here, which is where there's this gang rape, and there's a bunch of these, this gang is just raping a bunch of women all together, and it's just showing everything going on here. And then directly after that, we have a cannibalism scene where this guy, this mutant-looking dude, is eating out of this decapitated girl's head, just like eating right out of her neck. He's eating her breast, her legs, and everything, and I'm just sitting here like, I've seen enough internet that, you know, this doesn't faze me, but what's the point of having it? It's not really exciting. It doesn't really do anything. It's obvious that their intent with this was just to create something that was grotesque, and there's really no appeal to it. When you look at other shows, something like Genocyber, or something along the lines of Apocalypse Zero, they're set up in a way where it has more action than story in itself, even though the stories really aren't that much to begin with. Moving on to the presentation, this is something that it looks exactly like what you would expect out of an 80s anime. There's really no problems that I have with the animation, except for this one time when Jack transformed into this clear red wireframe mode during a fight, and I think his enemy did the same thing as well. I don't know if they did that to cut corners or they tried to go artistic with it for a bit, but it just wasn't working. And as far as the audio goes, the soundtrack here is also what you'd expect from 80s anime, but it really reminded me of the game Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master on the Sega Genesis. Like, I remember watching this the second time, and I was like, I know this song, and I went back and I played some of that game, and I was like, yeah, this is very similar. Moving on to the voice acting, this unfortunately isn't dubbed in English, and that would have made my viewing experience much more enjoyable because I could listen to it in my own native language and I didn't have to pay attention to all of the dialogue that's happening in a story that I don't care about at all. It is so shallow. Plus, if it was a bad dub, I probably would have enjoyed it more because it would have matched how cheesy the OVA is in total. Moving on to my final score, I give Violence Jack a 2.5 out of 10. It's something that I really can't recommend, even though with bad anime, I usually say if you're interested, then go right ahead, because even bad anime can be a learning experience for you, but something like this, I felt like I just wasted my time watching it. Also, did anybody else catch how similar Violence Jack looks to Zaraki Kenpachi? I'll put two of the pictures up side by side here. Probably an influence there, but anyways, let me know your thoughts about Violence Jack in the comments section below. If you've read the manga and seen the anime, please let me know what some of the differences are, because maybe someday I'll get around to reading the manga, unless it's very similar to the anime, but let me know your thoughts about that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, as well as like, comment, and also share with your friends. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when I review Shiki.